What's up everyone, it's Fudizi here, back with another review. This time, I'm going to be reviewing the highly anticipated sequel, Horizon Forbidden West. I'm going to share my really late experience here with the game, just spoiler alert for anyone. If you haven't heard from any other games yet, I fucking loved it. I'm a huge fan of the first game by Guerrilla Games. Having a primitive world just enhanced by technology and just ravaged by these crazy animal dinosaur beasts is awesome, and I'm just glad to say here, this game takes everything you could have possibly liked from the first and just does it in a bigger and better way. Seriously though, if you want to know whether it's worth a buy, let me save you the time. Definitely buy this on PS5 now if you somehow have the console. If you stuck around for the review, I'm going to touch here on graphics first. The first thing you're going to notice is just how good the graphics are. The game starts with this amazing intro cutscene that just really shows off how far video games have gotten. The game uses every excuse in the book to just go into these cutscenes. Even through most dialogue options, there'll be a really nice zoom letting you see every little pore, every hair on these character models. I can't explain just how impressed I was considering how weak new consoles have been when it comes to graphics in my opinion. I was lucky enough to get a PS5 and was able to experience this in performance mode. I didn't get any major frame rate drops despite all the crazy action, and I was just able to not run into any issues that I saw in other people's reviews. This is a post day 1 patch, or more like a day 30 patch, considering how long it took me to beat the game before it, but either way, amazing, little bugs.
The salvage is mine. I don't care who gets in my way. Nora savages or shadow cars or flea bags. I'm taking it.
Actors in the game lip sync so damn well. Every character model just has this amazing sense of detail, including the unique outfits that they've made. Each outfit kind of matches the look of every tribe that you visit. The game seriously sets the bar for characters because they all feel unique. Nobody feels copy-pasted in any way. Speaking of other characters, they're really important in this game. This isn't just a solo journey. You get somewhat of a Mass Effect style thing with the story where you're going to gather allies for an upcoming, really big mission. It never feels forced, and each character feels like a unique part of the team. Sadly though, when you're playing with the AI, they suck, and they're just there as meat distractions for these robots to kill. I'll usually go into the story here, but I just don't want to spoil anything. So what I'm going to do is cover the previous game and just some early intro stuff. If you haven't played the first game, please go do so. Not only do you need an understanding of that game to play this, but it's a blast and it's just going to have you appreciate this one so much more. After what happens in the first game, you're basically continuing your quest to save the planet. There's an AI named Gaia that you're looking for a backup of, which will help restore the planet. The quest isn't that simple though, because you'll need to complete the backup by finding all of its forms. I really don't want to go into any more detail than that because you really need to experience this for yourself. To keep things just vague, you're going to find companions, you're going to find rival tribes, you deal with just so many different factions, you deal with war, and even some really cool sci-fi stuff by the end of the game. Seriously, so much stuff happens in the game. My only complaint is just how long it takes for the story to take off. The beginning kind of feels like a slog. They teach you the game, but there's just so much depth when you get into the open world, it feels like they really wasted your time in the beginning. And that's really where the game shines. The game takes about 50 hours to complete on my end, and that was with me just getting distracted, doing side missions along the way. If you're looking to complete the game to 100%, I could definitely see you doing 80 plus hours. This isn't a tedious kind of game either. The quests are just really different. Side missions stand out because Aloy is a hero to the people, making time for them while saving the planet, so it feels earned. Side quests help you level up, they make the beasts less challenging, but still damn hard. You even get some of the best weapons and outfits from the side missions, so you definitely need to do them when you get the chance. Once this shitstorm of new games slows down, I'm definitely going to hop back in and just finish up some more missions that I missed. Speaking of the map here, it's freaking huge. You can fast travel to a ton of fireplaces that you unlock, you can override a beast and just ride it. I personally found myself running. Aloy runs fast enough, and by doing that, you're able to scavenge and just run into more missions on your way to the main quest. The best part of the maps is really the different biomes. This isn't a Halo Infinite where you're just getting grass, rocks, trees, and hills that look the same. Each area of the West is unlike the other, littered with streams, lakes to dive into and get treasure, ruins of the old world, and just even these crazy weather effects. You get to explore the desert, beaches, redwood trees, and even just snow landscapes. The amount of detail that they put into the map takes open world games to the next level. The crazy thing here is that nothing feels out of place. Everything, including the beast areas, side missions, collectibles, just feel like they belong. Except for this weird decision to only climb certain things. You get these weird glow lines that you could turn off if you want, but it basically tells you you're allowed to climb this area. My only complaint here is that some things look climbable, but they aren't. Makes it a little annoying that we don't have a full-fledged Assassin's Creed style climb, but that's okay. Open worlds at this point are pretty tiring, especially since some companies like Ubisoft just reskin and crank out a new one every year, but Forbidden West just seriously does this right. Multiple biomes, distinct factions, tons of weapons to craft, side missions, caves, hunting grounds, fighting pits, and even a chess beast game thing. I know I missed some things too, but seriously, the world is just full of things to do and you'll easily find yourself distracted for just good reason. You're exploring the western half of the United States, so you get to see some really cool remnants of landmarks like the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge and whatever's left of Las Vegas. The game isn't stuffed with content to just fill up your time like some other games. The content's actually really good and interesting. The side missions are honestly sometimes even more interesting than the main quest. Getting distracted doesn't feel like a waste of time because each one makes you stronger and gets you some really cool items. Besides the open world, combat is just another huge plus. The game is just like the first one when it comes to combat, which wasn't broke, so no need to mess with that. You basically scan a machine using your focus, you learn about its weaknesses, you can mark it, points of interest that you want to break off, and you kind of just focus on those points. You have the ability to use a spear, which you can combo with your bow to have a real cool energy blast, or you just stay ranged using your bow. I personally just love bow combat, so I just stayed far and just made that my bread and butter. There's even an option to craft some traps and lay them out. There's a tripwire that's back from the first game. And if sometimes you knock off some of the beast's guns, you can actually pick those up and just use them against them. The best thing I found was to see what they were weak against and just spam arrows into them. If the beast had just some heavy armor and an acid weakness, you could burn its armor with acid arrows and just start firing off into the weak point. No battle here feels the same or gets boring. Beasts even get stronger throughout the game and just have tons of variations. The monsters are just unpredictable too in their animations, making every single encounter just feel like a challenge. It's very easy to get overwhelmed early on when you don't know their attacks. The best way I could describe it is a mini Monster Hunter style mission. So for anyone that's played that game, you're going to be experiencing that on just a smaller level. Cutting off body parts, making fights easier, and just using their weaknesses to take them down. I personally found myself going stealth first. It's really easy to get overwhelmed in the game, so I found it best to just knock down the number of beasts before I was getting charged at, burned with fire, and just getting dive bombed by some flying pterodactyl looking thing at the same time. I had so many moments where I got jumped to death by tons of machines because I decided to be too ballsy and just take them all on. The game is not easy unless you choose the story or easy mode, which thankfully is there for some people, making it accessible to everybody. Again, I don't want to spoil the story here because it's really good, but you do have to fight humans. Human enemies felt at first like a chore, using your light and just heavy attack to mix up combos. I found that spamming those spear attacks were actually the best way to kill them, but for me that was at first the weakest point of the game. Thankfully, you get some upgrades, you can upgrade your moves, learn new combos, practice them in the fighting pits, and unlock some awesome new things like a jump off, slow-mo arrow shot, and different melee combos to keep it fun. I focused leveling on range just because that's what I played the most, but after looking into the rest of the trees, this is seriously like an RPG character builder. You can make anything you'd like and play it. Focuses go from melee, tank builds, traps, or even range. You unlock abilities that you can activate and you give stat boosts or even just different effects. The RPG style carries on throughout the entire game, where it builds out the lore, characters, and the world. This isn't a linear path just showing Aloy's experience. You can really see how your actions affect the world around you. You're a main character in a world that completely functions without you. This element is what makes the game just outstanding, because it's so easy to get lost in the world that the developers have created. Side missions are just so good because they flesh out every single faction you visit. By the end of those missions, you feel like you really made a difference, even if you ignored your whole Save the Planet main mission. Back to upgrades, you're going to be getting some different things like a secondary fire, where you just shoot a volley of arrows into the sky that drop down and do tons of damage. Valor surges, where Aloy can even deal extra damage based on the one you choose. What's cool is you can change these at any time, so if you try something, don't like it, you can always try a different playstyle. I saw awesome ones that I missed as well. I didn't really see a respec system, but I'd love to just build out a stealth archer instead of the melee and bow build that I copied from the first game. To me, the weakest was traps, and that's only because I just found them difficult to use. I felt like I had to lead the beast to them and just kind of just lay them out in front of me and hope they come towards me, and for some weird reason they would just not want to attack me when a trap was in front of me. There aren't just side missions too. You have rebel camps where you can learn about the enemy more, tall necks, which are really just like giant radio towers you have to scale in the shape of like that really long necked dinosaur from Jurassic Park, and even some different cauldrons that are back from the first game. Cauldrons are optional, but there's these insane mini dungeons. Seriously, don't miss a cauldron because the set pieces and puzzles are just too cool to be optional. You're even going to bump into NPCs that need help from machines, making the world feel like a living, breathing environment instead of just some scripted adventure. I've spoken about so much good here because the game is so great, you really lose track of the bad. I took note of the things that bothered me, but in the long run, it really doesn't hurt the game too much. Exposition, for example, is just a double-edged sword. Some dialogue just takes way too long with just way too much information. You get so much information about the previous game and current world to where I just found it hard to stay interested and focus on just the main dialogue options so I get back to the game. Even with the main options, it just felt like it took forever for these guys to get to the point. This works for some gamers that are really invested in the world, but for me, and I mean, I'm pretty invested, but it was just a bit too much. Another issue I need to point out is that it's just been years since the first game. The game relies on that just so much, which I guess it's given because it's a sequel, but some kind of intro scene, a refresh, a recap would have been really nice in the beginning. I'm personally guilty of finding another YouTube video that told me the story in 5 minutes because I just couldn't remember the details or characters. In conclusion, guys, seriously, I can't recommend this enough. Horizon Forbidden West does everything the first did, but in a bigger and better way. The graphics are the best I've seen in next gen, and if you're lucky enough to get a PS5, please do yourself a favor, buy this game so that you get the best experience possible. If you don't have a PS5, I seriously say screw it, buy this on the PS4, and don't miss out on this title. Guerrilla Games deserves the most praise for crafting a game that's just so in-depth on every level. As of now, for me, this is seriously the best PS5 game out yet. Shit, I'd honestly go so far as to say that this is the best exclusive release, period. This is what sequels need to look like, and I'm so excited for what's possible with the third game. Horizon Forbidden West gets a solid 9 out of 10 for me. Barely missing that 10 out of 10 spot. I mean, I seriously want to give it a 10 out of 10 because I enjoyed it so much, but I just have to say the story gets confusing, especially just coming in from the last game. There's a cool sci-fi element that gets touched on, but it gets really hard to keep up with the plot. Aloy can get a little annoying with how much she talks to herself. And the exposition could just be a little much, but seriously, those issues are nothing in the overall scope of the game. Do yourself a favor and experience this title.